Coming up today on the Waine Train, we've got two big games at the start of January in the Premier League as we take on Manchester City and Tottenham Hotspur, and also the January transfer window has opened up, and I might have talked my way into selling one of our best players. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 26 of the Waine Train here on Sean Does FM with Plymouth Argyle. I hope you're doing well and coming up today. As I said, we've got those two big Premier League games where we do take on City and also Tottenham Hotspur. Also a bit of a transfer window update, and we'll take on Tranmere in the FA Cup in between those games in today's episode. So if you're looking forward to that, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But at the end of last week, we took on Brentford and Manchester United, also both in the Premier League. If you missed the episode, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Unfortunately, our run in that competition of 10 straight wins did come to an end with a Diogo Dalot screamer inside the first half, which did condemn us to a 1-0 defeat at Ashton Gate. Off the back of that, to end the year of 2025 in game, we did take on two teams away from home down near the bottom of the Premier League table, and thankfully picked up some pretty convincing wins, both 3-0 away from home. First up, we took on Nottingham Forest. The goals here scored in the first half by Nicola Iliev, and then in the second half, both coming off the bench, it was Pizarro and Callum Wright. Of course, these days, no longer at the club, but because we have a few injuries, he was actually quite useful before he did make his way to Saudi Arabia. But as you can see, a quite dominant win. Nottingham Forest did get a few shots off in this game, but only one on target. We were a lot more efficient and did pick up that win. The Waine Train also picked up an assist nice and early, but did pick up that yellow card with around about 15 minutes left. So we did bring on Pizarro and he scored a goal. Shortly off the back of that, Callum Wright, as I said, really good, picked up an assist to go alongside his goal. So a good 3-0 win. And only a few days later, it was backed up with one over Everton. That one also away from home. And yet again, Callum Wright, he scored a goal in one of his last touches as a Plymouth Argyle player, a penalty in the 92nd minute off the back of a goal only a few minutes earlier to really seal that result. Yet again from Pizarro coming on for the Waine Train this time, because he was putting out a 6.4, and we got underway in this game early from a set piece. The former Liverpool man Reece Williams scored against his former rival club. So two pretty convincing wins off the back of that first defeat in a while at the end of last week, at least in terms of the Premier League. And what that means is we are now in third on the table, 2 points clear of Manchester United and Chelsea, which is potentially a bit more relevant because Manchester United have played two more games than us. So we are actually in a pretty strong position currently inside the top four, especially if we can pick up some decent results in these next couple of games that we do play in this competition. The one that's in between these two games today shouldn't be too much of an issue. A chance for us there to play some of our rotation players when we do take on Tranmere Rovers in our first game in the FA Cup, but still doing a good job here around about the halfway point of the Premier League season. Hopefully we can stay up there this time and we can make our way into Europe for next season with a 9-point gap on Aston Villa, who are the team currently closest to a European qualifying spot. But in terms of what's gone on so far in the transfer window since you were last here, of course, we did get some transfers that are going through over the first couple of days of the window. Already Callum Wright, he has left to go to Saudi Arabia off the back of that good finish that he had. He is off to Shabab Al Ali for £14.5 million. And also, if we go back to the centre, Liberato Cacace, he is about to join Pisa for what will rise to around about £2.8 million. So a couple of players are leaving us. We have put a bid in for a right winger in Mohamed Baloumi. This is a player I was looking at going into the start of this season, bit of an upgrade potentially on Morgan Whittaker, but truth be told, Morgan Whittaker's actually been doing a pretty good job. But seeing as we do have that 18 or so million pounds to spend now, I thought we'd go back in for him, and we're going to try and get him off of Firenze for a fee of £9 million. So that might be a little bit of extra squad depth that we can use for the remainder of this season in terms of the wings, especially because off the back of that episode at the end of last week, we have picked up a couple more injuries. Facundo Farias has been very on and off of late, and he is still dealing with a twisted ankle. He will be out for 1 to 2 more days. So that is one of the reasons why Callum Wright has been getting quite a bit of game time over that last month before he did leave for Saudi Arabia. Also, Herbie Honor, one of our young backup strikers, he's out with a broken toe, but hopefully that won't be too much of an issue as long as our other 4 strikers, they can remain fit. And also recently coming back from injuries, we've got the likes of Jacob Graves, Serginho Dest, and Morgan Whitaker as well, albeit he's not quite on a full green heart for this first game in today's episode, so it does mean he will not be featuring against Manchester City. And also, off the back of those last couple of games that we have played, as you'll see shortly, quite a few tired players for the second versus third clash. And also, of course, Josh Wilson Esbrand being on loan from City, he cannot feature against his current parent club. But hopefully, at Ashton Gate, we can pick up a decent result here. We drew against these guys 2-2 in the first half of the season at the Etihad. It was a late goal that made sure we got something out of that game. Hopefully, we can do something similar, or maybe even beat them here in front of our kind of home fans. Seeing as we are these days at Ashton Gates, with quite a few players being on a heavy workload, it does mean we are getting rid of those who are very injury prone when that is the case. The Kesler Hayden, he's at right back, and of course Springett in there for Whitaker. And also we've called up a couple of youngsters from our under 18s. As you can see, Ryan Wooden is a left wing cover, and we've got Chris Charon as the right wing cover in place of the not quite fully green-hearted Morgan Whitaker. So unfortunately, not quite at full strength for this one, but thankfully the Waine Train is fit and available. It hasn't been the case too often this season. Hopefully he can do a decent job here yet again. It is Ben Waine versus Erling Haaland. We all know New Zealanders do like to keep Erling Haaland quiet, so hopefully he will do the same, even though they're not actually marking each other. But hopefully we can pick up another decent result here against one of the best teams in the Premier team, trying to make the most of a Liverpool team who have just started to slip up around about the new year. So that could be interesting if Man City can pick up some points. But to be fair, they've been drawing a lot of their last couple of games. Hopefully we can do something similar here. I'll definitely take a point against Man City, even though we got that result at the Etihad. I think that would still be a pretty good one here at Ashton Gate, but hopefully this will be a good start to today's episode. We can give some of our more rotation type players some game time against Tranmere, and we should have a nice fit and full strength team available for that second game that we do take on Tottenham Hotspur. Hopefully get some revenge after they knocked us out of the Carabao Cup. But 15 minutes into this one so far, only thing that's happened is a yellow card to John Stones. But unfortunately, off the back of that, Man City, they get on the attack. Bernardo Silva with a shot which somehow beats Luis Jr. from a very tight angle, and that's because it takes a filthy deflection off of Miguel Gutierrez. I think that's now our third own goal this season. You saw the other two in the episode at some stage last week, but somehow there, Bernardo does get past Gutierrez. He finally gets back in behind him, but then puts the ball in the back of net. So unfortunately, we go 1-0 down here early at home. Also worth noting, Luis Jr., there has been some bids come in for him from Saudi Arabia, and he does want to leave. Thankfully, was able to turn the first couple down because they were under our valuation of him. But if it gets to around about the £40 million mark, that's going to be an issue. So we might be on the lookout for a new goalkeeper at some stage during this transfer window. And off the back of that opening goal and then another chance there to Man City, we get a free kick there, and it's a good save at the near post there from Edison, but we do have a corner off the back of that. Iliev plays that to the Waine Train. Some good short passing here, edge of the box. We go looking for Sarawi at the far post, but unfortunately that header does go just over the bar and about halfway through the first half. We are still 1-0 down, but to be fair, are actually playing some pretty good football in terms of stats. Does look like we're the team slightly on the front foot, apart from the fact that we're not winning, so we're definitely not on the front foot, but you know what I mean. And now the ball is with Edison here for Man City, albeit poor pass out there, and Sarawi makes his way in behind. He'll make the most of that Edison error. He picks up his 5th goal this season for mine, being one of our better players of the season here so far, since he did come in at the start of it, the Norwegian. He puts that one away, our Norwegian, doing a bit more so far than Erling Haaland, and that is a good individual goal, albeit, as I said, the Edison clearance there, not a very good one. Far too much loop on that one, and Sarawi gets on the end of it, runs through that Man City defence, and gets us back to being all level. And thankfully, off the back of an encourage, a potential highlight there to City does get cut out. So it looks like here we might go into half-time locked up at 1-1, albeit as I say that, we try and find Gutierrez, can't quite, but thankfully Graves somehow does end up with that ball back. Hopefully we might even find a way here to make it 2-1 to us before we go into the sheds, and Springett find some space down that right-hand side, plays the ball in there for Som, squeeze it nicely for the Waine Train. It's a big chance too, but unfortunately just puts that one over the bar. That means he's currently on a 6.6. He's having an okay game. Don't think we need to change it at the moment, though. Everyone out there is on a pretty decent rating. And in terms of overall performance, that was actually a pretty good half. Unfortunately, the one shot that City did get on target was the own goal, which we did score through Miguel Gutierrez. And to be fair, that was a situation where we definitely should have dealt with that dangerous playing quite well. But unfortunately, that own goal at the moment is what's costing us 1-1 here at Ashton Gate. But certainly seen enough in that first half to suggest we might find a way to grab a bit more out of this game as we make our way into the early stages. Now Phil Foden off for Jack Grealish. Now a free kick here in the right part of the pitch, but unfortunately looking there for the Train at the far post. Probably not the player we should be aiming for, not the tallest in our team here at the Pilgrims, and Edison can come out and claim that, trying to put pressure on him off the back of that error that he did make earlier, but unfortunately he finds Ake. Now De Bruyne plays 1-4, but good work there, I think, again from Sarawi to win that ball back for us so far, having a very good game, and to be fair, having a very good season. Now Waine under pressure, but good work there to find Williams. We're knocking it about, but City, they are putting us under a fair bit of pressure. We go all the way back to Luis Jr., as I said, could be a player who surprisingly leaves us. Now poor pass there, that would have been from Reece Williams. Now Haaland, he gets in behind. Don't smack talk Erling Haaland, Sean. 21st goal of the season. The Norwegian does score against us and makes it 2-1. And another error from us here. It's a poor pass from Williams, although to be fair, Som does kind of run away from that. And from there, it's a ball played forward to Erling Haaland from Kovacic. He puts that one away top left corner and they make it 2-1. And both of their shots on target have come from our errors. Reece Williams off the back of that is down to a 6.4. Halsner can come on for him. Also, Miguel Gutierrez also struggling off the back of his own goal. We're on even lead for him. I think we'll even try Kane Kessler-Hayden as a left back, seeing as his star rating a bit better than Ethan Laird's on that side. So 10 minutes into the second half, those will be our first couple of substitutions. Hopefully just shore up that defence to make sure we can come back and grab something from this game, because based on stats, it would feel pretty harsh if we got nothing out of this one, but thankfully we are on the attack now. Nice ball forward there to Nikola Iliev, makes his way into the final third. Nice one over there looking for Bischoff. Somehow forced to spring it now. Laird makes his way inside the box. It falls very kindly to Iliev at the far post, but Edison there with a very good stop to keep that one from going in the back of the net. Massive chance for us there to grab an equaliser, and thankfully that ball looking for Haaland is just a little bit too much on it, but that was a huge chance for us to get this game back to all square. And now Som has picked up a yellow card, and also Sarawi is playing well but is down to a red heart, so Randall can come on for Som. And also we usually bring on someone in that left wing position for Sarawi, but we don't have any good options, so instead Good Johnson for Iliev, who's struggling a little bit, and also Buckley, he can come on for Bischoff in the midfield. So that's all our substitutes now, because I don't think we need to save any more up with the bench options that we do have. Just make sure we have our best players out there instead of the young ones. Really only wanted to use those guys if there were injury concerns. Sarawi is playing quite well too, so it might be a good idea to leave him on the field, try and get us an equaliser in this game. He's on the ball there as we eventually look to play our way out from the back, but at the moment taking a bit of time. That's a poor ball forward there, that time from Kessler-Hayden. And another chance here for City to do something on the counter-attack, this time through their own good work. They find Nabry here, who does get in behind, tight angle. He will beat Luis Jr. that one. He got a good touch on, but it finds its way into the back of the net. A 3-1 scoreline here does feel incredibly harsh, but that time they have actually scored a goal and properly deserve it off the back of the first two, which were through our errors. Good work there. And Nabry from a tight angle. Luis Jr. gets down to it, but unfortunately it still finds its way into the back of the net. Off the back of that, we are going to go more attacking for these last 20 minutes. There's going to be a bit of a risk, but we'll see if it works. Not much to lose now, as we are down by 2 goals. Also tell our guys to play wider and be more expressive, but this does feel like a pretty harsh scoreline. We do have the higher XG, but somehow down by 3 goals to 1. And also more shots in the game, more shots on target. But of course, Man City, they do have better players than we do here currently at Plymouth Argyle. Now spring it with a poor touch there, and Kanji can win that ball back for City. Now De Bruyne plays that one over the top, but thankfully that's way too deep, and Jacob Graves can cover that one, starts to make his way forward, plays that to Kesler Hayden. Now Sarawi starts to run backwards. Does just look like their defence is a little bit shaken so far in this game. A couple of players out of position, I suppose, in the likes of Kesler Hayden in particular in the second half. Thankfully, Sarawi wins that one back for us, though, as Kesler Hayden did just about lose it. Yet again, we nearly lose it a few times and eventually do. Grealish wins that one as it didn't quite find Laird. So now Man City with a chance here to really put the foot down in this game as they do it to play it from the back, albeit poor pass there. Springer can get on the end of it, and it finds the Waine Train. It's a pretty fortunate goal. Thankfully, good Johnson, very unselfishly, looks for the assist, and the Waine Train, he's scored as many goals as Erling Haaland in this game, which I'll take because he's been very injury prone this season. But Waino, first time finish there with his left foot. Thankfully, when City make a mistake, we make the most of it. 3-2, and now with 10 minutes left, we are well and truly right back in this game. Hopefully, we can grab one more goal to get a point, because it does feel like that would be deserved based on stats and the XG from this game. Yet again, though, poor pass as we'd have thrown in a pretty good position, and City here might get a good chance to make it 4-2 because Nabry in behind, he finds Haaland from a long way up, but thankfully Luis Jr. this time with a good save, albeit to get a good sighter on that one as we make our way now towards injury time. De Bruyne will have a corner, and of course with this 3-2 lead, City are taking their time over it, albeit the fact they're doing that against Plymouth Argyle, kind of encouraging. We've given them a lot to think about so far in these games this season. Thankfully, that corner not too good, and the Waine Train can go and get that back for us, but unfortunately, nothing doing off the back of that corner, nothing happening on the counter-attack, and we suffer another defeat at Ashton Gate, back-to-back defeats at home. That one does feel a bit harsh. As you can see, based on XG, we were the better team, but unfortunately, we gifted them 2 goals. That first one, which was an own one through Gutierrez, and also that Haaland one for Nabry, did make it 3-1, got back into it with a goal that we did score through Sarawi, but unfortunately that second one, which was scored by Ben Waine, was too little too late, and we suffer a 3-2 defeat, which now actually sees us fall outside of the top 5, albeit still have those 2 games in hand over Manchester United and Tottenham. They've just beaten Sunderland 4-2. They might be a bit tough in our second game of today's episode. We'll come back and hopefully get back on track in the Prem. So unfortunately, another home defeat for us there in the first game of today's episode. Off the back of that, we did put out a pretty heavily rotated team for the third round of the FA Cup. The first time we did enter that competition this season, and we did pick up a 4-1 win. There you can see the team that we did put out, quite heavily rotated, albeit an injury to Facundo Farias, just coming back from one. That's annoying. Did mean that Josh Wilson-Esperand actually played quite a bit of this game at left wing, and we brought on Kesler Hayden to play at left back. But thankfully this time, a better performance, albeit they did equalise off the back of an early goal that we scored through Pizarro. But thankfully in the second half, goals to Graves, Iliev and to Buckley does mean up. We pick up a fairly comfortable 4-1 win, so we're through to the 4th round of the FA Cup. And you might have seen that before back on the schedule. We're taking on Brighton at the end of the month, a team that we quite often get in cup competitions. We might come back for that one in tomorrow's episode, either side of transfer deadline day, where we might have quite a bit of money to spend, and that is because if we go over and have a look at our squad here currently, and in particular Luis Jr., remember how I said a bit over £40 million we probably couldn't turn down? Well, we got one. Al Hilal, a bid over 40 million. We'll go over to the transfer centre that will have it in more detail. It was 40 million, rising up to 50 million. I promised him would accept a bid over 37.5 million, so it does mean that Luis Jr. might not be here by the time we come back for tomorrow's episode, so we might need to go and find a new goalkeeper, albeit even if we take out the money for that right winger who still hasn't joined yet, that would mean we'd have around about £50 million to sign a new first choice goalkeeper, which is a fair chunk of money. So we might actually be able to improve in that area, maybe even get a couple of players in. But unfortunately, Luis Jr., who's only really broken into the first team here at Plymouth Argyle this season, as he joined us halfway through last year with our goalkeeping injuries, and it took him around about the rest of that season to learn English. Certainly been playing well this season, despite the fact he has conceded 27 goals and only kept 5 clean sheets in the league. But it does look like he's going to be leaving us in this January transfer window, albeit for a fee of around about 50 it should go to. That's pretty good business after we did sign him for only £12 million, but it might mean this is one of the last times that you do see Luis Jr. in a Plymouth Argyle shirt, and of course also Libero Kakache. He has now left us, so it does mean that budget in terms of wage also quite high, up to £132,000 a week. But next up, we take on a Tottenham Hotspur team that have kind of hit the wood over us so far in the save, especially since Roberto De Zerbi did take over around about halfway through last season. Also, while we're actually on the transfer subject, did forget to mention, you might have seen it before, a couple of very interesting bids did come in from some teams, in particular Facundo Farias, before he picked up that injury in that game against Tranmere. West Ham were after him for around about 19 million, but I couldn't actually find anyone who was an upgrade for that or a little bit more. So Facundo Farias, we rejected that one. And also, we have got Nikola Iliev, who did have a bid coming from Nice that did trigger his release clause of 20.5 million because they are in the Champions League. Off the back of that, we did renew his contract, and thankfully he did decide to stay. He also renewed the contract of Good Johnson, our other striker, because Nice were also sniffing around for him. So thankfully renewed some of those contracts for players with release clauses that could be triggered by clubs in the Champions League, and thankfully they have all been signed for the players who were wanted by those Champions League clubs. There's been a bit going on around the FA Cup game in terms of transfers and potential players who could be leaving us at the moment. Does look like just Luis Jr. Also just noticed Richarlison's out with a torn hamstring. That's quite good because he can be a pest, even though he doesn't score too many goals. But hopefully this time we can pick up a result against Tottenham Hotspur, albeit this one is away from home, so it could be tricky against a team who aren't sitting that far outside of a European qualifying spot. And thankfully, having not played too many of our first choice players in that Tranmere game, it does mean most of them can feature in this one. So Gino Dest back in the team, and also the one change to our usual best 11, Adam Randall comes in for Simon Som, who is still on a heavy workload and quite injury prone. Also, Freddie Asaka comes back from loan. He was out at Wigan for the first half of the season. That's quite useful because it does mean he can sit on the bench while Facundo Farias is out as the backup to someone like Osama Solawi. So thankfully, does just mean we're a bit stronger now on the bench in terms of our wingers. Also coming back for this one, Morgan Whittaker out on that right-hand side as well. So certainly a much stronger team. And De Zerbi's copying me there with a 4-2-4. I'm pretty sure Tottenham weren't playing that the last time we faced off against them, albeit that was a little while ago now, but still, he's copying me, which to be fair, I suppose makes sense because they're down in 10th and they're Spurs, so they usually copy other people's good ideas, kind of like getting Ange Postecoglou from Celtic, where most of the options for their first team manager didn't want to go there, but to be fair, Ange is doing a good job, and it is now Tottenham who have the ball with the first highlight. Randall there with an interesting attempted tackle. Thankfully, didn't make contact, but Solomon makes his way inside the box. Serginho Dest, he lashes out. That was a pretty scrappy opening highlight. Solomon, he stays down. Dest there might have caused a bit of damage. Hopefully, this won't be a red card. Thankfully, I don't think it is. It's just a yellow card, but unfortunately, it is an early penalty here for Tottenham to try and put away. So this is a dreadful start at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and Luis Jr. does get sent the wrong way in what could be one of his last games in a Plymouth Argyle shirt. James Maddison lines up the dartboard and puts that one away in the bottom right corner, and we go 1-0 down early. And I need to stop smack talking teams because we're not looking too good here against some of the bigger ones in the Premier League. We're certainly doing the job against teams you might expect us to, especially with our current league position. We'll also get this there to ease off tackles, but unfortunately, might be a couple of losses in a row for us here in the Premier League off the back of that first one today against Man City and also Man United in yesterday's episode, albeit we did, of course, beat Forest and Everton off the back of that. But the big teams that we're playing at the moment, we are just struggling against a little bit. Hopefully not a sign that the tactic's going to start failing like it did last season, but the Waine Train, in very similar fashion to the goal he scored against Man City, will put that one away. We put the Spurs defence under a ton of pressure there as they do try and play out from the back. Vicario to Ramiro. Basuma takes far too long on the ball. Bischoff to Iliev. picks out the Waine Train, puts that one away in the left-hand corner. As I said, very similar goal to one he scored down the other end against Man City. And thankfully, not behind for too long here, coming to the half-hour mark, and it is 1-1. Hopefully, this time we can kick on and maybe pick up a win to make up for that slightly unlucky result it felt like against Man City to not get anything out of that game. Morgan Whittaker, interestingly, only on a 6.4. Both our wingers actually struggling a little bit, so might be a couple of changes here coming up at halftime, especially as Whittaker now does pick up a yellow card. But thankfully, we do go into the sheds locked up at 1-1, and based on stat sheet again, that does feel pretty fair. Tottenham so far, really, just that penalty, albeit we were lashing out a few tackles prior to that one from Dest, which did give that one away. So both players on yellow cards will come off. Ethan Laird and Tony Springett can come on for them. We'll try and keep Sarawi out there for as long as possible, but to be fair, he's not actually going that well in this game. Also get those players down that right-hand side to ease off tackles, because that's going to be quite important if we do want to make sure that Tottenham don't score another goal in this game. And as we get into the second half of this one, here is a highlight from the restart. Son is on the ball. Bentancur starts to make his way forward out there for the goal scorer in James Madison. But if he passed back there for Emerson Royale, but unfortunately we can't quite cut it out, albeit Spurs are being forced here to go back to the defenders, and good steps from there from Sarawi. Can he put this one away or maybe look for a teammate? He takes on the shot, and Waino there was following quite nicely in the middle, but unfortunately Tottenham defend that well. Big chance, but that time we can't put it away. It does stay at 1-1, but all of a sudden, off back of that mistake, which did lead to the Ben Waine goal, does feel like here we might be getting on the front foot slightly, albeit I'm talking again, so I'm obviously talking rubbish, because the game's decided. It's a highlight for Tottenham Hotspur. Solomon, who did earn that penalty, makes his way inside the box, floats that one far post. Thankfully, no one there. Luis Jr. can claim that. We play this quite quickly as well. Hopefully, don't put ourselves under pressure, albeit our players down our right-hand side there have an absolute shocker. Solomon plays that through to Son, who tucks it away. He's not offside, and it's a poor mistake from us yet again. There's been a lot of those in today's episode, and Tottenham make it 2-1. Off back of that, we'll take off Sarawi on a red card for the player back from loan, and Freddie Asaka. Hopefully he can do something decent, as that might help us fulfill the whole objective about using players through the club's youth system. But unfortunately, couldn't find someone there down that right-hand side from that pass, which did look like we should collect it, and Sonny makes the most of it and makes it 2-1, albeit not too long off the back of that. And that substitution, a chance for us here to do something down the left-hand side, albeit the youngster Nasaka poor on the ball. Not a good start for him. Emerson Royale gets it back, albeit plays that forward to Brennan Johnson, who can just flick that on with his head to Luis Jr. Hopefully we can strike back here and try and grab something from this game. Iliev, nice flick on there for the Waine Train, and Asaka does get in behind, tight angle, but puts it away. His third goal of the season. The Waine Train gets an assist to go alongside his goal from the first half. It's his first ever senior goal. Of course, those other goals did come for Wigan, so a big impact there from the player back on loan. And Ben Waine finding some pretty good form back from injury here in January. Hopefully that means that he can stay fit and start to string together some good performances in the first team. But 2-2 here with a half hour left. We are going to take off here Adam Randall on a 6.4 for Simon Sommy. Is a little bit injury prone. Hopefully that doesn't come back and backfire. And as I say that, he immediately picks up a yellow card, which is not ideal, but back to 2-2, and now making our way towards the last 20 minutes of this game. We've got one sub left. A couple of players are on red. Hearts Gutierrez and Tom Bischoff. The safe option here might be to strengthen that defence in terms of fresh legs. So Hausner can come on for Gutierrez, and we'll put Ethan Laird out to left back for the later stages of this game. It's actually quite an even one now in terms of stats. There's now Reece Williams. He picks up a yellow card, and Solly March is off the field, which should mean here that Tottenham are down to 10 men. Just looking, they have got 6, 7, 8, 9. They are down to 10 men for these last 10 minutes. So this could be quite a difference maker in the later stages of this game. Tottenham down a man off the back of that injury to March. Hopefully we can make the most of that. But now into the last 5 minutes, there's a throw into Tottenham here inside of the final third. Kulusevski plays that one back. Kulusevski from a tight angle. Luis Jr. doesn't even bother trying to save that. I'm going to berate him on a 6.4. I think his mind's on Saudi Arabia already. And if that's the case, he's going to be in for an absolute spray from me here, because we don't need that at Plymouth Argyle. To be fair, he probably thought the defender there in Graves was going to block that, but still, that is pathetic goalkeeping. We are down 3-2 in what has been a pretty even game stats-wise. It's very even and about to make our way into 9 minutes, I think it is, of added time. There's certainly some time for us here. Try and get this game back to all square. So what we're going to do is put these players' roles to more attacking like we did in that City game, and also tell our guys to be a bit more expressive and see if we get any highlights later in this game. And there's one happening here early on in these 9 minutes of added time. Ethan Laird is on the ball, starts to make his way in field, picks out Reece Williams, who to be fair, not doing too well on that 6.3, but now Springett is on the ball inside the final third, plays that one back to Som. Nice ball there for Bischoff. It's a huge chance on the volley, but Vicario, he wants to be at Spurs, so he makes the save, and it's now a chance for us from a corner. Hopefully we can put this one away, but that was a big chance for us to get this back to all square, and unfortunately I think there Williams just puts that one wide, and we are still down 3-2, albeit now a free kick in our favour. Bischoff looks far post. Halsner flicks it on for the Waine Train. He picks up a double. He's not offside, and thankfully we might come away with something from this game. Off the back of that, we'll drop those players back the usual role, so hopefully we can hold on here and at least take something from this game. But that is a big goal from the Waine Train. He's playing really well in today's episode. That's now 3 goals for him. We'll tell our guys to still be more expressive and also leave the Waine Train on attack instead of support, but just some of those more defensive players, they can go back to support and defend. The wing-backs on support and the ball-wing midfielder on to defend, but that is a big goal. The Waine Train, he beats the Vicario from quite a similar spot to where Luis Jr. got beaten down the other end, albeit we make those changes, and there's a highlight from the restart. And FM24, these can be quite brutal. Hopefully Tottenham don't go in front yet again. Skip starts to make his way forward. Tottenham holding the ball quite well here from the restart. Makes his way inside the final third, which is not ideal. Picks out Ramiro outside the box. We'll try and put that one into the bottom right corner. He does. So we're going to make all those changes again. And Luis Jr., I don't think he wants to be here. That's another shot there I think he should be saving at his very best. But as I said, I think he's got money on his mind in Saudi Arabia. That was from a long way out, and Tottenham make it 4-3, and we get pegged back immediately here in front of their home fans. Don't want to watch that replay because I don't like it. Luis Jr. on a 6.1. I think he might have cost us a game there today with those 2 late goals that he did concede, and somehow, despite the fact that in terms of stats, we've been the better team in both those games that we have played in today's episode, we've somehow lost both of them and not even picked up a draw from one of them. That would have at least felt like something, but that's a really poor episode for us today, despite the fact that we did actually play some decent football, but unfortunately, our defence proving a little bit costly in those 2 games today. We back up that defeat to Man City with a 4-3 loss there at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Definitely felt like we deserved to get something out of that game, but thankfully we are still in 5th with a game in hand still on Manchester United, but just put ourselves in a little bit more jeopardy of not making Europe for next season. So 2 disappointing results on camera in today's episode. Narrow losses there to Manchester City and Tottenham, kind of keeping up a theme here this season of not quite being able to get the job done against those bigger teams in the Premier League. Waine, though, superb in that game. 2 goals and an assist off the back of that goal he scored against Manchester City, and also for the next game if he's still here. I don't know if we should be starting Luis Jr. because he's been a bit average in those last couple of games since those bids did come in from Saudi Arabia, so maybe Mike Cooper can go into that team until we sort out a new goalkeeper, provided that Luis Jr. does go to Saudi Arabia. Otherwise, that will be really annoying if he's just played badly only to turn down a contract from Saudi Arabia. That might be the quickest that someone's got on my bad side in a single episode with those last couple of performances, especially a player who's quite good attribute-wise in Luis Jr., but he kind of looked like he wanted to pack it in the later stages of that Tottenham game, and maybe that was the difference between us winning and losing those couple of games in today's episode. But that will do it for today. When we come back tomorrow, hopefully he won't be here, but if you enjoyed today's one, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. We'll come back tomorrow, potentially, with quite a bit of money to spend on transfer deadline day or in and around that. If we haven't already signed a replacement goalkeeper for this guy, please leave you absolute buffhead. But we'll come back in late January, take on Brighton in the 4th round of the FA Cup. Off the back of that, we take on Everton. That's at home. They're not very good, so I think we might skip that one, and we'll come back and take on West Ham away in the Premier League, a team just outside of the European qualifying spots, and a team who usually do give us a pretty good game. So we'll come back tomorrow, and there might be a few new faces in our squad here at Plymouth Argyle. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.